They don't lose interest because you stopped caring. They lose it because they can no longer control you. The moment you stop reacting, their power starts to die in your silence. Every interaction is an exchange of invisible currency. Every look, every tone, every small reaction holds value. Most people spend without thinking. They react to every comment, every jab, every compliment. They give away their emotions like loose change, hoping it will buy them approval, connection, or peace. But what they don't see is that every reaction costs something. When you respond too quickly, you give away control. When you stay still, you gain it back. Power doesn't always belong to the loudest. It belongs to the one who can withhold. Emotional withholding is not about being cruel. It's about learning how to use your silence like a tool. People crave a reaction because it tells them they matter. It gives them proof that they can move you. The moment they can move you, they own part of you. That is why the one who reacts first always ends up following the emotional rhythm set by others. But when you stop reacting, when you hold your calm, everything shifts. The room changes. People start to notice your stillness. They feel the tension of your quiet. And in that tension, their control begins to fade. Most people confuse stillness with weakness. They think silence means surrender. But silence, when chosen, is strength. It creates space. It makes people wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you truly feel. The mystery becomes your shield. The less they can read you, the less power they have over you. You're no longer part of their game. You've stepped outside it, and from that position you can see the moves others can't. Withholding emotion doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop performing. It means you no longer hand over your energy to anyone who demands it. You decide when and where to show your feelings, not because you're numb, but because you're disciplined. Think of your emotions like light. When you scatter it everywhere, it loses focus. But when you direct it carefully, it cuts through anything. That's how focus works. That's how power works. People will call you distant, cold, detached. Let them. What they're really saying is that they can't manipulate you anymore. They can't feed off your attention. They can't get the reaction that made them feel significant. And that loss unsettles them. They will test you. They will provoke you. They will try to make you break your calm. Don't, because the longer you hold still, the more their noise exposes them. Your silence becomes a mirror that reflects their insecurity. They start to doubt themselves, not you. The strong don't withhold because they fear emotion. They withhold because they understand its worth. They know that every reaction is a price, and not every situation deserves payment. Emotional withholding turns chaos into clarity. It separates what matters from what doesn't. It makes you untouchable in a world addicted to reaction. Because when you stop chasing validation, when you stop feeding every fire that's meant to distract you, you don't lose connection, you gain command. Every emotional game begins with bait. It never looks obvious at first. It hides inside small comments, playful teasing, subtle criticism, or a tone meant to test your reaction. People do this without even realizing it. They want to see how much control they have over you. If you defend yourself, if you rush to explain, if you get angry or laugh nervously, they learn exactly where your buttons are. The moment you flinch, they know how to move you, and once they know that, they can use it again and again. Most people take the bait because they need to be seen as right, liked, or understood. They can't handle silence, so they fill it with words, not realizing they're giving away information that will later be used against them. The Machiavellian mind sees the trap long before it closes. It doesn't react to tone, insult, or provocation. It observes instead. When someone throws bait, it asks, why are they doing this? What do they want to see? What reaction are they hoping for? This level of awareness changes everything. The more you see the pattern, the less you play the game. You start to notice how people disguise control as conversation, how they phrase questions to pull emotion out of you, how they make jokes that test your ego. But when you stay calm, when you show nothing, you confuse them. They can't read you, and when people can't read you, they can't control you. Bait works because it feeds on ego. Someone says something sharp, and your pride rushes to defend itself. Someone questions your ability and you want to prove them wrong. That's what most people do. They think reacting proves strength, but it proves the opposite. The strong don't need to react because they already know who they are. They don't need to fight every small challenge. Their silence says everything. It says, "You don't decide my worth." It says, "Your opinion doesn't shake my world." And that calm makes others uneasy. The one who stays quiet looks like they know something the rest don't. People throw bait to feel powerful. When you ignore it, you take that power back. You make them sit in their own insecurity. You let their need for control show. They start trying harder, becoming more emotional, more desperate to make you respond. But your stillness is a mirror. It reflects their need. It makes them realize that they're the one exposed, not you. In time, they stop testing you, not because they respect you more, but because they realize they can't win. The real secret is this. Every time you resist the bait, you grow stronger. You train your emotions to serve you instead of betray you. You stop giving people the data they crave. You become unpredictable, unreadable, untouchable. And in a world where everyone reacts to everything, being unreadable is power. It turns every test into a failed experiment, because when you no longer bite, they lose control and you gain it. There are people who survive on emotion, the way others survive on air. They live for reaction, for the rush that comes when someone argues, explains, or pleads. They need constant confirmation that they still matter, that they can still move someone. These are emotional addicts, and attention is their drug. When you give it, they feel alive. When you take it away, they panic. They will do anything to pull you back into their game because silence to them feels like death. The moment you stop reacting, they start to lose their balance. They throw sharper words, louder insults, bigger stories, hoping to spark something inside you. But the strongest thing you can do is stay still. At first, they will act as if your silence doesn't affect them. They might pretend they don't care, that they have already moved on. But inside, they're spinning. They replay your calm face, your steady tone, your unbothered energy, and they can't make sense of it. It doesn't fit the script they've always used. They expected chaos, not composure, and because they don't know what's going on in your mind, they lose control of theirs. That's when they begin to collapse. Not all at once, but slowly, piece by piece, as their attempts to trigger you fall flat. Emotional addicts need you to feed the cycle. The moment you stop, their world loses structure. Your silence becomes a mirror that shows them the truth they've been running from. They were never in control. They were just being fed. They don't miss you. They miss the reaction, the arguments, the explanations, the endless back and forth that made them feel powerful. When you take that away, they face the emptiness underneath, and that emptiness terrifies them. So they scramble. They text more, talk louder, make dramatic statements to pull you back in. Don't fall for it. Their chaos is not a call for help. It's a test to see if you still belong to them. If you give even one small reaction, they'll take it as proof that the old system still works. You'll be pulled right back into the cycle, drained again by the same emotional chaos. But if you hold steady, something changes. They start to see you as someone they can't reach. Their words lose their edge, their games lose meaning, and slowly they lose interest. Not because you did anything wrong, but because they can't survive where there is no reaction. They move on, searching for someone new to feed on, someone who still confuses attention with love. Your silence is not cruelty, it's clarity. It's the moment you stop feeding what was only draining you. The collapse of the addicted is not your fault. It's their own dependency crumbling without supply. When you no longer offer your energy, you protect your peace. You rise above the noise. And the world starts to notice the one thing that separates the calm from the chaotic: power built on silence. Every person you meet is a mirror. Whether you realize it or not, they reflect the energy you bring into the room. When you react with emotion, they mirror that emotion back to you. When you speak too quickly, they rush too. When you defend yourself, they see permission to question you more. But when you stay still, when you let your calm guide the space, something strange happens. They start to slow down. They start to measure their words. They start to treat you differently. Not because you demanded it, but because your energy demanded it without saying a word. This is the power of social reflection. The world reflects your control or your chaos, your calm or your neediness, your composure or your insecurity. Most people don't realize how much of their image is shaped by their reactions. They think people see them for who they are. But in truth, people see what they show under pressure. That's why the loudest person in the room rarely holds real power. They may get attention, but not respect. The one who speaks less, who listens more, who holds their expression steady while everyone else rushes to fill the air, becomes the quiet center of gravity. People can't explain why, but they feel it. They feel drawn to that stillness. They start to assign meaning to it, imagining confidence, intelligence, mystery, even danger, all because you didn't react. The mind hates gaps. When someone doesn't reveal themselves fully, others start to fill in the blanks. They project qualities onto silence. They try to decode it, and that's when your silence becomes leverage. You're no longer proving your worth. They're trying to prove theirs to you. The more you withhold, the more they chase clarity. They adjust their tone, their posture, even their opinions, hoping to earn a response. You've flipped the social dynamic without doing anything. You've made stillness your weapon. People respect what they can't easily read. The calm, quiet person creates tension simply by being unpredictable. Every pause becomes power. Every unspoken thought becomes a question that others try to answer. They start watching you more carefully, wondering what you think, wondering what you'll do. And because they don't know, they assume the best or the most intimidating version of you. That assumption works in your favor. It gives you influence before you even act. The key is to understand that energy spreads faster than words. If you stay centered, others begin to match your rhythm. If you stay emotional, they mirror your storm. So every time you walk into a room, you're teaching people how to treat you by the way you carry yourself. Your stillness becomes instruction. It says, "This is my pace, this is my standard, this is my space." You don't earn respect by asking for it. You earn it by embodying it. The calm mind shapes the crowd, not through dominance, but through quiet authority. That's how the mirror of the world works. When you stop reflecting chaos, it stops reflecting back. And in that moment, you stop chasing power and start creating it. Every moment you spend reacting is a moment you lose control. Most people live as if their energy is endless, giving it away to every comment, every argument, every passing thought. But energy is a limited resource. Every sigh, every defensive explanation, every emotional text is a small leak in your power. The one who manages emotion manages outcome. This is the rule of emotional economy. Whoever spends emotion first loses control. The world is full of people trying to pull reactions from you, and every time you give one, you feed their influence. But when you stop reacting and start observing, something changes. You begin to see how others are moved by emotion while you remain grounded in your own calm. Observation doesn't just save energy, it multiplies it. Think of emotion like currency. Every reaction you give away is a transaction that benefits someone else. When you argue with someone trying to provoke you, they walk away satisfied. When you rush to defend yourself, they walk away with power. When you get angry at a small insult, they walk away knowing they can reach you. But when you stay composed, when you choose silence instead of defense, they get nothing. They feel that wall of calm and realize they can't access your energy. That's when they begin to respect it. People value what they can't easily take, and when you guard your emotions, you raise your price. Emotional economy is about knowing when something deserves your energy and when it doesn't. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every opinion is worth correcting. Not every situation deserves a reaction. The weak try to fix everything around them. The strong conserve energy and fix themselves. They don't respond to noise. They respond to results. Every time you hold back from reacting, you grow more powerful, not just in perception, but in presence. You teach the world that your attention must be earned, not demanded. Restraint doesn't mean passivity. It means control. It means you choose your moves carefully, spending emotion only when it serves a purpose. The Machiavellian mind knows that emotional restraint confuses people who expect chaos. They don't understand how you can stay so calm when they push, so measured when they provoke. That confusion gives you leverage. It turns every encounter into a quiet game you're always winning. Because while they burn energy trying to pull a reaction, you're collecting data, reading them, learning their patterns. Most people burn out not because life is too heavy, but because they spend energy on the wrong things. They overthink, overreact, overexplain. They let small situations drain them dry. But when you master emotional economy, life starts to feel lighter, not because it changed, but because you stopped wasting energy on things that didn't deserve it. Influence doesn't come from noise, it comes from stillness. Every ounce of energy you save through restraint compounds into quiet power. You don't buy respect by reacting, you earn it by conserving. Because in the end, it's not the loudest who wins, but the one who never runs out of control. Attention feels harmless. It feels like connection, like warmth, like being seen. But attention, when given too freely, becomes a drug for both the giver and the receiver. Most people don't realize they are hooked on reaction, on the small emotional exchanges that make them feel alive. They chase messages, comments, validation, all to keep the illusion that someone still cares, that they still have control. But when you stop reacting, when you take back your attention, the illusion breaks. They don't lose interest because they've grown bored. They lose it because they can no longer use you as a mirror for their ego. Your calm doesn't push them away. It exposes what was false to begin with. When attention becomes addiction, people stop seeing you for who you are. They see you as a supply. Every time you answer quickly, defend yourself, or give reassurance, they get a small emotional high. It makes them feel powerful. It makes them feel significant. But when you stop feeding that need, when your silence replaces chaos, they panic. They'll call you cold, distant, arrogant, detached. They'll say you've changed, but the truth is you've simply stopped playing the role they wrote for you. They can't run their usual emotional script anymore. They don't know how to perform in your stillness, and that confuses them. They mistake your peace for punishment. It's not your job to keep people entertained. It is not your role to supply emotional comfort for those who refuse to build their own stability. When you start withholding attention, you start to see who was truly there for you and who was only there for the reaction. The honest ones will respect your boundaries. The manipulative ones will twist them. They'll accuse you of being selfish or uncaring because that's what addicts do when the supply runs dry. They'll push harder, they'll provoke, they'll bait you into breaking your silence. But you must stay calm, because every time you withhold reaction, you're not being cruel, you're being clear. You're teaching them that access to your attention must be earned, not taken. Attention addiction isn't only their problem, it's yours too, if you've ever needed to be understood, liked, or approved by everyone. You have to unlearn that reflex. You have to train yourself to find peace in being misunderstood, to stop explaining when no one is listening, to stop reacting when someone is provoking. That's when you move from emotional dependency to emotional dominance. You no longer need to be validated to feel alive. You carry your own certainty. The moment you take back your attention, you take back your power. The ones who depended on your reactions will fade because they can't survive without your energy. What fades isn't love, it's illusion. You didn't lose them, you lost the performance. And what remains is truth. When silence becomes your default, you stop living for approval and start living in control. The unpredictable always holds the most power. And when your calm makes others uneasy, that's when you know you've become the one they can't predict. Every conversation is a quiet contest for control. It is not always about who talks the most, but about who sets the rhythm of the exchange. Every word, every reaction, every pause creates a frame. One person leads, the other follows, and the one who reacts first almost always loses that invisible game. Most people rush to fill silence because they fear what it means. They fear appearing unsure or weak. But silence, when chosen, is not weakness. It is weight. It breaks the rhythm others depend on. It bends their confidence without you lifting a finger. The more you can stay composed in silence, the more you shift the balance of power in your favor. When you speak less, move less, reveal less, you create a vacuum. The human mind hates emptiness. It tries to fill it with meaning, with stories, with assumptions. When you don't explain yourself, people start to wonder why. They build their own version of your thoughts. Some will assume intelligence, others confidence. A few may even sense danger. The truth doesn't matter. What matters is that they are now reacting to you. You've reversed the frame. Instead of you trying to fit into their world, they're adjusting themselves to fit into yours. And the longer you can hold that silence, the stronger the tension becomes. That tension is power. Silence isn't just the absence of words, it's pressure. It makes others uncomfortable because it removes their control. They can't read you, can't predict you, can't measure your emotions. They start to second, guess themselves, repeating their points, over-explaining or nervously filling the space with small talk. Every unnecessary word they say makes you look more composed. Their need to talk reveals their insecurity. Your calm reveals your authority. People start to sense that you're not like the rest. You're not chasing validation. You're not trying to win approval. You're simply observing. And that observation feels like power because it is. When someone tries to provoke you or dominate a conversation, don't rush to defend or correct. Let the silence hang. Watch how they fill it. They'll either soften or stumble, unsure of whether they've gone too far. The frame they built begins to crumble, and yours takes its place. You've broken their rhythm by refusing to play by their timing. That's what silence does. It dismantles control, not through confrontation, but through composure. Most people believe influence comes from charisma or words, but the truth is simpler. Influence comes from presence. It comes from being able to hold silence without anxiety. The person who can sit still while others panic becomes the emotional anchor in any room. People adjust their tone, their posture, their energy around that kind of calm. You don't need to dominate anyone to lead them. You just need to be the one who doesn't flinch. Because when silence becomes your default, you don't just end arguments, you rewrite them. You turn uncertainty into gravity, and gravity always pulls things toward it. That's how silence breaks frames and builds power without ever making a sound. Silence is not just the absence of words, it is the withdrawal of energy. Every time you stop reacting, you stop feeding the system that thrives on your attention. The world runs on emotional exchange. People speak, provoke, praise, or question because they want a response that proves they still have influence over you. When you remove that response, they start to feel something deeper than confusion. They feel loss. They don't lose interest because you went quiet. They lose interest because they realize they can no longer control the emotional current. What once gave them power now leaves them empty. That's the withdrawal effect. It begins quietly and it changes everything. When you've always been reactive, your sudden calm feels like a blackout to those around you. They push harder. They raise their voice. They send more messages. They create noise because silence exposes their dependence. It forces them to confront how much of their self-worth was tied to your reaction. They may accuse you of being cold or detached, but what they really mean is that they've lost their control over your emotions. And that loss scares them. The louder they become, the weaker they look. Every attempt to pull you back into chaos only highlights the calm you've built. What was once seen as quiet now looks like strength. Emotional withdrawal doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop leaking power into places where it's wasted. You stop explaining yourself to people who never listened. You stop trying to heal those who enjoy being broken. You stop arguing with those who twist your words to feel superior. Each time you hold back a reaction, you send a message that says, "My energy is mine, and I decide where it goes." That message changes how people see you. You're no longer someone to test. You're someone to respect or to fear. At first, your silence will feel strange even to you. You'll feel the urge to defend, to fix, to prove. But when you hold still through that discomfort, something shifts inside. You start to realize how peaceful control feels. You start to see that calm is not emptiness, it's strategy. The less you react, the more you can observe. The more you observe, the more predictable the world becomes. And the more predictable it becomes, the easier it is to stay composed. That is how power builds in silence, not through force, but through clarity. Eventually, people stop testing you. They stop looking for cracks. They speak more carefully. They treat your time differently because they know your attention is no longer free. What can't be controlled becomes respected, and what's respected often becomes feared. The withdrawal effect isn't punishment, it's purification. You're removing noise to protect peace, removing reaction to protect power. And when the world grows louder trying to reach you, your stillness will say everything it needs to. The highest form of strength is calmness that no one can shake. It is not about being emotionless. It is about being in control of emotion so completely that your stillness becomes power. When you reach this level, you no longer chase validation or try to explain your worth. You become a presence that speaks for itself. The aura of composed indifference is not coldness, it is command. It is the quiet understanding that attention must come to you, not the other way around. People will sense it before they understand it. They will slow their speech around you, lower their tone and adjust their behavior without realizing why. It is not fear that moves them. It is respect for the quiet certainty that you carry. Composed indifference means you no longer rush to correct false stories or defend your name. You understand that the world always talks, but talk has no power unless you respond. The more you stay grounded in your silence, the more people wonder what you know, what you think, what you might do next. That curiosity becomes your advantage. You turn mystery into gravity. People lean in, trying to decode your calm, but they never fully can. They feel your presence even when you say nothing. You stop playing defense because you no longer see yourself as someone who can be attacked. You are not in the crowd explaining. You are above it observing. Indifference is often misunderstood. It isn't apathy or lack of care. It is the refusal to let emotion decide your direction. When you master composed indifference, you don't ignore life, you just choose what deserves your attention. You give nothing to pettiness, gossip, or provocation. You give your focus only to what builds your power. And because of that, your energy feels rare. The world notices rarity. It can't look away from someone who doesn't beg to be seen. Every time you stay calm in the face of drama, every time you choose silence instead of defense, you make people question their own behavior. They start to see themselves through your stillness. They become more aware of their noise, their need, their chaos. Without realizing it, you start to control the emotional tone of every room you enter. That's what authority is. Not loudness, but presence. You don't win arguments. You end them with quiet certainty. You don't demand loyalty. You earn it through restraint. You don't chase opportunities, they start to find you. The aura of composed indifference is built slowly, through patience and practice. You train yourself not to react, not to explain, not to overreach, and over time your silence begins to speak louder than anyone else's words. People begin to sense that you cannot be moved. That's when power stops being something you perform and starts being something you radiate. True influence doesn't shout, it doesn't plead, it simply exists, calm, certain, and untouchable. Maybe this video helped you see yourself or someone you know in a different way. Feel free to let us know via a like or in the comments. And if you want more wisdom and guidance in becoming a better version of yourself, subscribe now. This is the moment to start becoming the person you really want to be.